If you wanna make those bouncy, hard Detroit beats, you have come to the right place. In fact, today I'm going to show you all the techniques from the classic Detroit bounce to those crazy hard drums, so let's get into it. First of all, let's talk about the BPM. They're usually around 100 BPM, or 200, it's the same thing. In these beats I heard a lot the piano and also electric piano, especially lately. So let's start with this close grain piano from FL Studio and then we can change the sound later. And in my opinion, the best way to make these beats is to start with the bass notes. Once you have them, you can just build and everything is gonna be easier. So this is the classic Detroit bounce, used a lot. And then we can add some notes at the end to create variation. That's already good, but as you can see I'm using a note that is not in the minor scale. And that's because in this type of beats they use a lot the Phrygian scale. That is really similar, but we have this note available instead of this one. Perfect to achieve that flint Detroit vibe. But I always use the Phrygian scale for this beat, so let's try the minor natural. That works too, obviously. And I'm going to use these two notes that are close together, as you can see in the scale. I'm going to create tension that is perfect for these beats. Oh, I like that. Set to go up maybe to E, then we can always change it. Yeah, that's hard. As I said, now that we have this, we can just build on top of it. And here we can go two main ways. Or create the chords following the same bounce. So for example, something like that. But that's really boring. One thing we can do is again play around with the close notes. Yeah. And it's gonna surely sound good, especially because in Detroit beats they place a lot of perks in this range, where we are leaving space with the main melody, so that creates even more bounce. But we could try another way to make the melody, make something really repetitive. Yeah, you can find unlimited melodies like that, but I really like the chords we used before. We could create some variation maybe here. Now we can add a top melody on this. Also here we could create a fast melody. But I think in this beat the bounce is everything. So let's find something bouncy. Yeah, I like that. As you can see, it has also lower velocity. But I want to change the sound. Yeah, that's hard. Maybe I like more the bass notes of the other piano. Yeah, this piano is better in my opinion, but it needs some effects, so let's add stereo shaper to make it sound wider. And keep the bass notes in the center. I need some reverb too, let's use the stock one. Now it's time to add other elements to make it sound fuller and have some variation for the arrangement. As I said at the start, they use a lot electric pianos, also in combination with the main piano. Let's open Expand and search for one. And we can just copy the same melody. I love this tone. We just layer the main melody, but this adds a lot to the beat. In fact, when these two sounds are playing together, they create a whole different tone. And it sounds like one thing, and it's really important to find the right tone. One thing we can do to make it even more interesting is to change something. So, for example, we could remove this. Oh, yeah. Also, a subtle change like that makes the difference. Now the melody is much more interesting. But let's add a couple of more sounds just to make this sample better. For example, I heard they use a lot of strings. We don't have to do too much. Let's use the root note, also the fifth. Maybe let's use these ones. Okay, make it stop here. Keep it simple. And low in volume and add a lot of reverb. And it's already panned on the left, so it's good because everything needs its own space. In fact, right now we are only missing a counter melody that probably we will pan on the right. For that I want to search for a bell, so let's go in riffle. Yeah, let's start with this bell. Everything is faster. Let's make something slower. Ooh, that's crazy. This preset is pretty simple, it only has 2 sounds, but works really well. By the way, if you need some new sounds, make sure to check out Riffle. It's still at a low price, and this multi-key thing, man, makes it crazy. Yeah, that's our sample, and we are missing just one thing, a bass. I like this bass, and we don't have to do too much. We can just copy the bass notes we made. Yeah, that's way better. But I do want to add some more bounce to this. One really good thing about the bass is that you can play with the octave. Okay man, our sample is finished, and it could be also a little bit too much for a Detroit beat. That's why we're going to arrange it and have all the sounds in different sections. For example, we could start with an intro. Okay, for the drop we can have almost everything. Then the second part of the hook, we can have the strings. In a lot of these beats I heard that they start with a bass and maybe a kick, and then they switch to a hard 808 and it sounds always crazy. So let's remove the bass from the verse. Let's remove almost everything. And now it's finally time for the drums. The drums are really important in these beats, they need to hit. And let's start with a clap. They don't use normal claps usually, but they use a snare and pitch it up. But we can do that in the piano roll, so we are faster too. And we can keep it simple like that. Then for the hi-hats, let's use 2 steps. And let's make it shorter. And double time it. Now here we could add some rolls and pauses and create bounce, but I feel like they like to keep the hi-hats simple and then add percussions. This one is used a lot. They place patterns like that. Another percussion they add a lot is the tubular pad. And we can just follow the bass notes with this, so we are in E. That's perfect. Let's add also a head to create even more bounce, just right before the clap. Create something bouncy, then we can copy it. Yeah. Yeah, that's fire, man. Now let's add a kick with the bass, and again we can just copy the pattern and click Alt K to bring them to C, and maybe let's change the pattern a bit. And here we can have the 808, man, it's gonna sound insane. And for this we can use something like the spins. And maybe make it shorter. Yo! Bro, that's crazy! Another thing we can do to make this transition even better is to get a head like that and make it reverse in itself. Yeah.